going on? What's going on? We got a little bit of a late night edition of the Dog Food Radio. It's super late because I ain't even adjust my watch, but that's all right. We're gonna go ahead and get it in. Um, a lot of news happened over the weekend, and not really gonna be the subject of today's conversation. Um, Title of the show is "Do Not Let Them Move the Goalposts." Now, what do I mean by that? So you obviously had the Miles Garrett. Uh, he wanted out tour and all of that, and then he just got signed. Okay, well, that's great because essentially you're not entering a rebuild year. Now, if you think about Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, what they inherited a young team with a young quarterback in Baker Mayfield, a young running back coming into his prime, Nick Chubb. You got a pass rusher in Miles Garrett. You had Denzel Ward, and I think they had just drafted the linebacker, JLK. So you had the pieces in place. Now, I want you to think about all of the public drama that has gone on in the media in the last 5 seasons. You had the Odell Beckham drama where the video comes out and, that's a whole thing. And obviously it did something to the locker room where it was split and they gave him up for nothing. They just let him walk for nothing. That was very public. That was in the media. That was number one. Obviously, you had the Baker Mayfield thing that played out the way it did. That was number two. Remember the Jadeveon Clowney? He went to the media and was talking about, oh, they're showing favoritism, blah, blah, blah. That was very public. Then you had this Myles Garrett situation where he goes on a media tour and he's trying to get out of the paint, and then it gets resolved. And then I believe a couple of months ago, you had the Deshaun Watson. There was some hit piece, some article that comes out, and they're talking about the locker room was this, the locker room was that. And it's just interesting to me that this particular organization can't keep their drama behind closed doors. Everything that's dramatic, well, I'm not going to say everything because obviously I don't know everything, but a lot of things every season tend to be in the forefront rather than being able to handle your business behind closed doors, which to me is evidence why the team goes 3-14. And if you followed this show, if you followed the Fanatical Elves for a while, you know I'm one of the main proponents of firing Kevin Stefanski because I don't think he's a leader. I think if you look at his track record, yeah, he's got 2 Coach of the Year's awards, but what does that really mean? Because they don't give that to the Super Bowl champions. So it really doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like the MVP. The MVP really doesn't mean anything. MVP should go to whoever wins the Super Bowl, but that's not what happens. So you think about all of that public drama, and most recently it was the Myles Garrett drama. They got that resolved. It seems as though the narrative is starting to be crafted to where, hey, we're riding the ship, and if they only win 4 games next year, 6 games next year, but it's exciting and it looks good, people are going to be content with that. That's moving the goalposts. It's moving the goalposts because for the last 2 or 3 years, what we've heard from everybody is that this team is one quarterback away. They're quarterback away. All they need is a quarterback. And obviously, y'all know what happened with Baker Mayfield. Obviously, you know what happened with Deshaun Watson. They got the number 2 pick of the draft. Your quarterback issues should be solved with this particular draft. They talked about it one show a couple of weeks ago where the Browns have only selected a quarterback in the top 10 or 5 like 3 times or something like that. It's a very low number. And they shouldn't be trying to trade back. They shouldn't be doing that. If you got a quarterback, they say Kevin Stefanski's his quarterback whisperer. He should be able to identify a quarterback in this draft with the number 2 pick that he can use, that he can win. They say this draft is loaded with running back talent. That's what they say. Now, in the event that they don't sign Chubb or they do bring him back, you're going to need to draft a running back, a bell cow, a number 1 back. So you're talking about probably a rookie quarterback because regardless of who they bring in as a bridge or a veteran, it's not going to move the needle. They need to try to replicate what Washington did, which is why there shouldn't be no goalpost moving. Anything less than a playoff appearance and a deep run is a failure, because this is not a rebuild. It doesn't look like it's a rebuild. Now, you got a few holes. You got a lot of holes, but you got 11 picks, 10 picks, something like that in the draft. Andrew Berry, this is put up or shut up time. Obviously, you didn't like the team you inherited because you've had so much turnover that anybody that looks at that objectively says, you must not have liked that team, because you got rid of a lot of pieces. And you just so happened, if Myles Garrett was a free agent, you would have lost him. It just so happened that you realize, oh, I can't lose him. So that was kind of luck of the draw. So do not fall for this Kool-Aid that they're starting to serve up, that this team is on an upward trajectory. Again, they're a quarterback away. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry should be able to sit in the lab and identify somebody that they can draft, that they can win. Let's pause for a break right here, and then we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to make it real quick. All right, if you're still with me, we appreciate that, and we back. Okay, Kevin Stefanski. They say, quarterback whisperer, go look at the stats. If y'all are new to the show, go look at the stats. He's never had a passing offense higher than 19th. That's a fact. He's never had a passing offense higher than 19th. He's had running games in the top 5. So what does that tell you? Was it Nick Chubb or was it Kevin Stefanski? I would argue that it was Nick Chubb. And you see this season waiting for Chubb to get back. And then when he comes back, unfortunately, he's not really 100%. He's not really the Nick Chubb that you remember. And they only win 3 games. Now, granted, they only had him half the season. And then obviously you had the quarterback piece, which brings me to my next thing. You're hearing some rumblings about Joe Flacco. And I just heard something before I went on live right now that they're probably not going to bring back Jameis Winston. So Joe Flacco, and we've talked about it, I'm going to go through it real quick, is not the answer. Let's look at real quick, and normally I would have a graphic for this, but I want y'all to see exactly what I'm looking at. So let's see here. Entire window, entire screen, here we go. Okay. All right. So this right here is 2024 Pro Football Reference. This is 2024 defensive statistics. We're going to look at overall defense. Now, in week 1, the Browns played the Dallas Cowboys. You got the Dallas Cowboys down here at, what is this? 31. Let's go ahead and circle them. All right, next they had the Jaguars, 28. So bottom third there. And you got the Giants. Let's just put it here so that way we can actually see it. You had the Giants at 21. And you had the Raiders, 26. You had the Commanders at 18. You had the Eagles, number 2. And so these are all games that Deshaun Watson played. So he was the quarterback. I think he started all of these games. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 in the bottom half, really 5 in the bottom half. So really all of those are winnable games, right? So let's get to Jameis Winston when he comes in. Cincinnati Bengals. Where are they on defense? 25, so that's times 2 for them. Baltimore Ravens, number 9 defense times 2. I already see the Pittsburgh Steelers, so let's go ahead and mark them. You got the Chargers, number 1. You got the Saints. What were the Saints on defense? 19. We already marked the Steelers. You had the Broncos, number 3. And you had the Chiefs, number 4. We already marked the Bengals. Yeah, we already marked the Bengals. And then you had the Dolphins at number 10. Now, that's a pretty balanced schedule right there. You got 7 games against top 10 defenses. And then you have another, well, actually more than that, because some of those count for two. So you had quite a few games against top 10 defenses. And you only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what's that? 9 and 8. So 9 games against top 10 defenses, uh, 8 games against bottom half defenses. So if we're being honest, this team really should have been closer to 500. Jameis Winston, let's look at his games real quick. Los Angeles Chargers, Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. I don't even know if he played that game. I think he had one of these against the Ravens. I'm basically saying all that to say that this team grossly underperformed, but y'all already knew that. Sometimes you have to see what you were going up against. And that was a pretty difficult schedule. But I think because of what they did the previous season, that's why they played a schedule like that. Now, let's see if we can clear that. And let's go to the previous season because people talk about the Joe Flacco piece. And again, Joe Flacco didn't play against too many top 10 defenses. So if we go 23, and I hope my screen is still showing, you got the Bengals. See, they were 21st, so that's times 2. You had the Steelers. Where are the Steelers at? They was top 10, like they usually are. You got the Titans, 16. Ravens, number 1, that's twice. 49ers, number 3. Indianapolis Colts. I'm almost certain they didn't play 9 top 10 teams in defense the previous season. See, that's your Seahawks there. Arizona Cardinals. Baltimore Ravens, we already marked them. Pittsburgh Steelers, we already marked them. Denver Broncos. Down here, 27. Rams. Where were your Rams at? Rams. I think now we're getting into the Flacco games. So Flacco, 19, the Rams. Jaguars, 17. Chicago Bears. What were the Bears? 20. Houston Texans. I know they were missing some of their starters that game. 11. New York Jets. Where the Jets? 12. They got the Bengals, and then they lost to the Texans. So based on what I'm looking at here, Flacco played against the Texans in the regular season, played against the Jets in the regular season, played against the Bears in the regular season, the Jaguars in the regular season, the Rams, and I want to say his first game was against the Broncos. And where were the Broncos at? So the highest ranked team defensively was the Texans or the Jets. So that 23 season was a little bit fluky. I hate to say it, but it was a little bit fluky because they didn't play against the same level of defenses that they played against last season. And again, when you think about the Chiefs, you think about the Patriots when they went on their run. When you win consistently, you're going to play tough schedules. That's when you get to the stability piece. Right now, the Browns don't have any stability. They're going to get a last place schedule. This season coming up, they're going to get a last place schedule. Now, the schedule's already come out as far as who they're going to play, and it don't look like a last place schedule on paper when you look at some of the names. But you look at some of the things that's happening as far as trades and free agents and things like that, they got to play the games, which is why you shouldn't let them move the goalposts and say a 5-win or 7-win season or an 8-win season and not making the playoffs, but they look good with a young quarterback is acceptable. I don't care that it's the AFC North. I don't care that it's the AFC. Not trying to hear that. We've heard for years, the last 4 or 5, that They're a quarterback away, at least since Baker Mayfield left. You've heard that they are a quarterback away. That's what you've heard. They still got Denzel Ward. They still got Myles Garrett. They still got Njoku. They just traded for Jerry Jeudy. Everybody said that he looked great. He looked like a number one. So the draft, this particular draft here, is where they should be able, if Andrew Berry is worth anything, he should be able to fill out this team with some young players to fill some of those gaps, mainly the quarterback gap, and get this team back on track. Now, I don't believe they can do it. I don't think it's going to happen. But that should be the standard. Playoffs. Playoffs. We're not moving the goalposts no more. Not trying to hear that. So this is probably the worst time of year for sports because you got all this speculation. Everybody just knew that Myles Garrett was getting traded and blah, blah, this, blah, blah, blah. And you saw what happened. So everybody thinks that, Ward is going first or Sanders is going first or the Titans are going to trade out. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. I don't really want to get into what the possibilities are because literally anything can happen. Anything literally can happen. They may run with, the Titans may stick with Will Levis and draft Abdul Carter. They may stick with Will Levis and still draft Cam Ward. You really don't know. Anything can literally happen. The Browns could trade down. Anything can happen. So not really going to get into the hypotheticals. We'll let all the geniuses do that. But I will say Steve Gill, Fanatical L's, Dog Pound South, he called it. He said that Garrett wasn't getting traded because of the cap hit. He was right. And I'm sure there was some other people that called it, but for the most part, there was a lot of people doing a lot of speculation. So how many months are we away from the season? This is March. So what you talking about? 5 months till the preseason. So it's going to be a long 5 months. Talking about 150 days, give or take. But that's okay. Fanatical L's, Dog Food Radio. We're going to try to keep you informed. We're going to try to keep your football thirst quenched. And, just try to stay abreast of what's happening. If you stuck with me to the end, really appreciate that. Shout out to all of y'all. If y'all stayed up late with me, shout out to all of the Browns fans across the world, all that. Gonna go ahead and sign off. Probably see y'all Thursday for the group show. This is Dog Food Radio, and go Browns.